Hey, it's Renee from the Craft Table. Welcome to the first day of February 2026. Um, I am in my home studio in Orlando where it is super, super, super cold today. And I know I shouldn't complain because there are many parts of the country right now that is even colder than where it is here. But for us in early February, it's been quite a while since it's been this cold. I'm trying to see what my weather app says. Let's see. So I have like all the places where my family lives on my phone. So currently, let's see, it is 2 p.m. Eastern and it is 46 degrees, feels like 39. So I know that's not super cold. But we do have an extreme cold warning. It was 24 degrees this morning, and tomorrow it will be 27 degrees. And so I've been checking all the places that I have on my phone, and it's interesting. So at the moment, it's actually warmer in Montana than it is here in Central Florida. I've got a couple of kids up in the Northeast. So one in Philadelphia, one is in Chicago at the moment, and my grandson is in Connecticut. And they are like in the teens, so super cold. And then my mom and my sister, we're talking South Georgia, South Mississippi, also very, very cold. So I thought I would just pop in, even though I don't have a tutorial to share with you today. I just wanted to talk a little bit about what's going on with me, see what's going on with you, and just have a chat. I am pretty consistent posting YouTube videos over the summer. I do my embroidery stitch alongs because I have a schedule and, weekly for about 12 or 14 weeks over the summer. And then I keep meaning to be consistent when I am done with that. And then I don't know what happens to the time. It just goes super fast. And the longer there is in between recording videos, the harder it is for me to come on here and talk to you because there's been so much going on. I don't really know where to start and, how much to share, how much not to share. Um, so here I am, just like I said, I thought I would maybe do a little bit of stitching while I chatted a little bit with you, ease my way back into doing some YouTube videos. And I need to apologize. I did not even clean up my sewing area. I've got piles behind me of, they don't look it, but they're organized piles. I'm trying to get things, my projects, and some semblance of order so I know exactly what I will be doing. If you subscribe to the Craft Table newsletter, that went out a day or two ago. And as I mentioned in the newsletter, February is a super busy month for the Craft Table and for many, many creative people. It is National Embroidery Month, so that's always exciting. I don't think any of us need an excuse to work on embroidery or do any type of project, but it's always nice when there is a national day to commemorate our crafty activities so that we don't have, I don't know, it just makes it to me easier to explain away to a family member or a friend. I don't know, like why I'm doing a certain thing. But so February at the Craft Table, there's several in-person workshops. So if you are local, I would love for you to check those out. My friend Kelly is doing 2 workshops. I'm doing one. We have our monthly open studio. I try and, since I'm the retail part of the Craft Table is I try and keep that pretty much online because I don't have set hours in the shop. And so in-person events at the Craft Table, it's usually prearranged and it's because there's a workshop or an event or, something like that. So I try and do one Saturday a month so that people can come in and bring a project. I've got my table where we do the workshops, I've got that cleared off and people can just come, bring their project and just work on whatever, you're working on, as long as it's a hand project. I don't have a lot of room for people to bring their sewing machines. And then also gives people a chance to see what I have in the store and to do a little bit of shopping if someone's so inclined. So I've got that going on. And this month, it's going to be on Analog Day, which I found quite interesting. Usually I just look at my calendar and see what I have going on, and I pick a Saturday that's not super busy. So when I realized that Analog Day is the last Saturday of February, I thought, well, that's perfect because that is exactly what we do at the craft table, and most of us do all the time. So if you are on any type of social media, which if you're watching this on YouTube, that means you probably are, and maybe Instagram and reading newspaper articles, but there's been a whole lot of talk about 2026 being the year of analog, which I think is great. I feel like I'm analog anyway. But if you have not heard people talking a lot about analog day or the year of analog, or there's a lot of posts about, quote unquote, granny hobbies making a comeback, making sure you have an analog bag. And my take on it and what I found interesting, and I'm trying to tell my family members who don't necessarily do a lot of crafting, I think everyone should have an analog bag. And so the idea is it's not to totally disconnect and to get off social media. Again, I'm here talking to you on YouTube, but there are times when I know I do it. We all just either out of habit or boredom or for a reason to escape, we just pull out our phones and we just scroll for no purpose. So scrolling for a purpose, or I shouldn't say scrolling, going on the internet or an electronic device when you have a reason, of course, is perfectly fine. Going on there for no reason is perfectly fine. But I think the idea of having an analog bag is if you have a bag with items with you, whether it's on the couch next to you or you have it in your car, so that when you're running errands, if you have a bag that either has a book, crossword puzzle, knitting, English paper piecing, hand embroidery, some greeting cards and a pen, to write a letter to someone, you're less likely to just pull out your phone when you have moments of free time. So I just think that's great because I'm one of those people that I just always have to have something in my hand, doing something. And if I don't have a pen and a list. I love to make lists, so if I don't have a pen and a notepad or some sewing or something, then yes, I'm going to pull out my phone and I'm just going to scroll for no reason and just see what's going on. But anyway, and I had seen this thing about Analog Day and I just assumed, how we've got a day for everything. So it said the last Saturday of February. Well, then when I looked in it further to put a link in my newsletter when I talked about, Analog Day, come to find out it's actually been organized by a particular person and organization to promote this idea of Analog Day. I didn't realize it was such a it wasn't like an organic thing. I thought it was like ice cream day or something like that. Well, so apparently this is the very first International Analog Day. So I will link to all that because I think it's really quite interesting. So you can find out more information about that. So that's another thing going on in February that I just coincidentally happened to tie to my open studio. Then what else is in February? The 100-day project starts in February. That is another thing that I mentioned in the newsletter, and I can link here in the description, where, again, it's quite funny because, find out about these things when I'm not disconnected, when I am on Instagram. So I have participated in this a few times in the past, and the date changes every year, but I think it's February 22nd when it starts this time around. And there's a website that you can, sign up for a newsletter, and it just gives you more information and encourages you to participate and gives you ideas. But the quick story is you can pick an activity, usually, like a creative thing. So, for example, you want to do embroidery. So, you could do 100 days of embroidery stitches. And the idea is whatever it is that you select to do, you do that every day for 100 consecutive days. So, it could be seen as just something to get you jump started into a particular craft or into a habit of creating every day. Maybe you want to learn something new. You want to learn how to do embroidery, or you want to learn how to do watercolor painting, or you want to do gardening. There's, so many things out there, and not everyone that does it is a quilter or an embroiderer. I think they call it like an art project. So it's just something creative that you do. And the idea is to document it and, put a hashtag, and then you can see what other people are doing. So anyway, so that is also happening in February. I might pop in, next week or something with some ideas of specific 100-day projects if you're looking for ideas on something like that. And then also in February, it is QuiltCon. QuiltCon happens every February. It's put on by the Modern Quilt Guild. I have not been in a few years, so I am really hoping to go this time. I am planning on it. I have a hotel room, I have a flight. I've signed up for a few workshops. And the reason why I say I hope is the last time, I'm not sure if I've mentioned this. So the location changes every year. This year it's in Raleigh, and it has been in Raleigh one other time. I think it was the year before last. And I had also signed up to go, had my hotel, hadn't had my flight booked yet, I don't think, but I had signed up for some classes and all that. And then things got crazy in my personal life, and there's just a lot going on. And instead, I decided to take a trip with my husband. So the two of us ended up going to Montana that week instead of going to QuiltCon. Um, so now that it's in Raleigh again, because I have family that lives there, I definitely want to go. So that is happening as well. I think it's like February the 19th. I think it runs Thursday to Sunday. So it's somewhere around that time. And again, I can link to that. I just can't remember off the top of my head what day it starts, but somewhere around that. So if you are going to QuiltCon as well, let me know. Look for me, leave a comment saying that you're going to be there. I'm hoping to have some stickers or something to hand out. I'd ordered some the other day, but I'm not really happy with them, so hoping to do something else between now and then. We'll see. So yeah, so that's what is going on related to the craft table and what I put in my newsletter. And I've been working on a whole bunch of projects, as I usually do, none of which they're all long term. They all take a long time. And I switch from one to the other. But with it being February, I always think hearts. I love hearts anyway. So it gives me, again, another reason to work on hearts. And I have this English paper piece pattern called Jewel Hearts Pillow. And I don't have it with me because I'm at home and it's at the shop. But the sample that I made up is in pink. And so I thought I've been working on one in like blues and greens just to, put on to give people an idea of what other colors you can make it in. So it doesn't have to be pink just because it's hearts. So here's one block. It's basically like a 9-patch pillow, and they're made with jewel shapes, English paper piece shapes, and it's just 2 shapes, stitch it together, you baste it on a background square, and you make it into a top, and then you can turn it into a pillow or a wall hanging, a little mat for your table. These are This is what a jewel shape looks like if you're unfamiliar um, with that. And these are some that I've taken out already of my shapes. So I thought maybe I would just do, although I've already kind of done all my talking, but I thought I might just do some stitching and hang out with you guys for a little bit. Not doing a tutorial. If you are interested in this particular project, I am going to link to it. The pattern comes with the papers, comes with instructions. There is a link to how to baste the shapes, glue based and thread based, how to stitch the shapes together to make it into a heart, how to applique it onto a background block, and then assembling the top, and then also how to do the pillow back. So all that is in the pattern if you are so inclined to do that. That would be great. Let's see. Got my coffee's about to go cold. So I'm gonna switch my camera so I can do overhead and do a little bit of stitching. You can see, it's just two jewel shapes stitched together. Press it before and after I take the paper out, and then I center it on my background square. And I usually take a glue pen and I just put a little bit of glue in certain areas to hold, on the back of my shape, and press it on my background square just to make sure it doesn't shift too much while I'm doing the applique and stitching it onto the background, which this part you can do by hand or machine, but I love doing it by hand. And then because I don't put a lot of glue on it, I take a couple applique pens and just pen certain spots, again, just to prevent it from shifting while I'm doing the stitching part. And I will either use a 50 weight or 80 weight R-fill thread for the applique part, because I don't really want the stitches to show. And let's see, I usually just kind of like start over here. I bring my needle up from the back. It's kind of hard to see what I'm doing. And then just take little bitty stitches. And I stitch all the way around. And I find this step to be so meditative and fun, therapeutic, that even though I know I can do this on the machine so much faster and in a way that looks really nice, I enjoy doing this part by hand. And what's great about appliquing after you've done English paper piecing is the edges are already turned under. So there's none of that, turning under the edges as you go, making sure it's all smooth. That step's taken care of with the EPP. So you'll find that a lot of EPP projects that I do are sort of a hybrid of English paper piecing and applique and patchwork, because this is the part that I like the best, is the stitching. And so English paper piecing tends to be more of a tessellation type pattern where all the pieces fit together nicely, diamonds and hexagons and squares and triangles, and I do love all that, but what I like more is just sort of the slowing down and stitching. So I tend to find projects where it's maybe just one or two shapes stitching those together, and then whatever design I come up with, I will applicate to a background square and then sew those squares together into a patchwork project, whether it's a pillow, a table runner, wall hanging, or, you know, full-size quilt. Like I said, if I had another camera, I would show you. I'm actually, when I'm doing this, I'm not that close up to my stitching. I'm looking at my stitching through my cell phone. So my stitches are probably not as nice and neat as they would normally be. And I usually do make them quite small. Yeah. So earlier I was talking about the 100-day project. One year I did 100 days of, actually this wasn't part of the 100-day project, although it could have been. One summer, this was well before I started doing the embroidery stitch along, someone else was hosting I think they called it 100, what was it? 100 summer blocks or summer stitching. Anyway, it was a block type thing. And so I had done 100 blocks of a particular EPP. I call them my happy flower blocks. I did 100 of those. And I had done a quilt where, in order to get 100 blocks, I did 9 rows by 11 rows, and that gave me, sorry, I had a knot here. That gave me 99 blocks. And then the 100th block was the quilt label on the back. And actually, I should probably pull that out because I did not finish putting all the blocks together. I wanted to show you, I also made, I make some of these into pin cushions and coasters and little needle books as well. So these are some that haven't quite finished. These are coasters. I've sewn around all 4 sides, but I just need to close it up here. So this one, I was gonna do a set for a gift for a friend. They come together so quickly, and then I did the little tag on the back. They've been sitting on my ironing board for a while. So here's another one where I've only just done the top. So this is what it looks like after you've stitched the shape down. So many times when I've got a stack of blocks like this where I've already done the English paper piece part and I have the background squares already cut out, I'll have a stack like I have here. These are prepped and ready to go. Well, not this one. Oh yeah, that one is. I already took the paper out of that one. And it's great to sit in front of the TV if you're trying to binge watch a particular show. Or with an audiobook. But today, what I'm doing, I don't think I'll do all of them because I would bore you to tears. But I'm just kind of enjoying being quiet over here with my coffee, and I'm stitching, I'm thinking, and occasionally chit-chatting with you. So on these little Stitchy chats, you can have a stack of stitching as well. And we can stitch together if you'd like. It's not quite, it's sort of, I think hybrid is going to kind of be my word for the year. It's a hybrid. It's a hybrid process. Disconnecting a little bit, in that I'm not in front of my TV and I'm not scrolling on my phone. My hands are busy doing something else. But yet I am on YouTube and you're on YouTube watching this, but hopefully you are also, while you're watching this, you've got something in your hands, either something you're stitching or thinking about. You know, maybe you're watching this and thinking, oh, maybe that's a project I never thought I could do English paper piecing before, but that looks kind of easy. I could probably do that. So as I said, this particular project that I'm working on is a pattern. It's one of mine, so I could show it. It's not that big of a deal. But sometimes I'm working on projects that are someone else's pattern, and I obviously can't show step by step for copyright reasons. So this pattern has all of the instructions, but I do have some video tutorials that are related to English paper piecing in the playlist under, I think it's under tutorials, that if you wanted to get started, but you're not sure if you want to get started, you want to see a little bit more about what's involved, I have some very basic video tutorials that kind of go over basting, more hexagons than jewel shapes, but the premise is the same. And what's great, if you start with something kind of like this, or one of my, I call them my happy flower projects, you don't have to invest a lot of time or money and supplies because you're not buying a huge English paper pieced project with, 500 pieces. You could, but you don't have to. You could start simple with a coaster. You're just basically doing one block, and you're not really wasting it if you decide you don't like it, because you can turn that one block into a finished project by making it into a coaster or a pin cushion or a mug rug, or put some lavender potpourri inside and make it into like a little sachet type thing. And but I would imagine you will find, I hope you would find, that you really like it. And then there's so many things you can do with it. But yeah. But going back to stitching together, I've had people tell me they really like to watch videos while they're stitching of other people stitching. You don't have to worry about, you're missing a step in a video tutorial on YouTube. You're just enjoying the company of someone else doing something similar at the same time. And it's the next best thing to sewing, at a third space type thing, an open studio at the craft table or similar type of get together. I've noticed those types of activities are popping up so much where I live, which I think is awesome. Craft nights, whether it's at a place that offers workshops or it's just a way people are getting together at bookshops. We've got some local breweries that are doing, pairing up with, collaborating with people doing workshops. So those are also great ways of stitching with other people. But sometimes, your schedule doesn't allow that, or you want to stay at home in your PJs, which I find myself wanting to do more and more these days. So this is sort of the next best thing. I'll sometimes also save this kind of stitching for my husband and I. There's some shows that we like to watch together, but there's quite a few that, we have different taste in, bingeable series. So there's some that we watch together, and then there's some that I like and he doesn't, and vice versa. So we were watching The Diplomat together. We both liked that series. And we finished, we're all caught up. So I found myself pulling up The Americans. I don't know if anyone ever watched that when it was originally aired, and I don't even know exactly when it was originally aired. It's got the same actress, so it's not exactly similar, but sort of. And so I started from the beginning, and I'm just watching it by myself. My husband will come in every once in a while. I think we kind of watched it together, but not religiously when it was on the first go around. And so I started from the beginning because I couldn't remember what I'd watched and what I hadn't. And I think I'm not sure, I looked the other day to see how many seasons there are, maybe 6. And I think I'm on season 3. So that's sort of, if I've got something that I want to watch while I'm sewing at the moment, it's The Americans. And I would love it if you have some that you would recommend. You can leave those in the comments. As I said, this isn't really a tutorial, but I can tell you when I get to something like this where I was saying how it's great appliquing EPP because you don't have to worry about turning under the edges. And you really don't, except for certain shapes will have these tails sticking out. So when you have something like this, you just basically, that's why I pinned this area rather than gluing it, because I have to be able to lift it up and tuck the tail under. And then I just keep stitching. Then I tuck the other side under. And if it's too bulky, like this is pretty long, I can trim that. You just have to be careful. You don't want to trim it too much, so where you don't have a seam and or you've got frayed edges sticking out. Okay, almost to where I started. All right, that one's done. Thanks for joining my Stitchy chat today. I appreciate having some company while I was doing my heart EPP. Maybe I will have a finished top to show you the next time I'm here. In the meantime, happy stitching.